Hello and welcome to Professor Pincushion. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a sugar skull for Day of the Dead. Now this project is fun for kids and adults, and especially for beginners because I'm going to show you how to do 4 basic hand stitches. So it's a fun project to do if you're not really familiar with sewing. Now, what can you do with this? Well, I'm going to use it for a patch for a future project, but you can also use it to decorate a decorative pillow, put it on a tote bag, basically decorate whatever you want. You could also put magnets on it to hang it on the fridge, or if you do a smaller version, make a little button pin out of it. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and take a look at the supplies we're going to need. First thing, you're going to need an assortment of felt. Now, if this is a project with kids, you can definitely use craft felt. It's definitely more economical. I'm using wool felt because I want to make a patch out of mine, so I need something that's going to last and can handle the heat a little bit better. So you can see I have a few different colors here. This is going to go with my pattern pieces. Now, these you can download off our site, and it's just some of the pieces that you can use. You can definitely use some of your imagination and create your own pieces if you want, but if you want to use mine, that's perfectly fine too. So the first thing, we have the skull pattern, which I'm going to cut out of white felt. So that's a good color to have. For the black felt, I'm going to cut out my mustache and then the nose piece here. And for each of these, you only need to cut out one. The yellow is going to be my teeth pattern. And this, again, I'm only going to cut out one. And then I have a bright color, which I'm going to use for the eyes. And they kind of look like a flower shape. So this is the only one that you need to cut 2 out of. You really don't need that much fabric to create this. I'm just using little scraps that I have. The biggest piece, of course, is the skull. So that's what you need to fit on the white. Then I need an assortment of embroidery floss. This is going to help to decorate our sugar skull. And then I also have these little flower decorations. This I got from the scrapbooking department, and these we're just going to glue on. So I need some fabric glue. You're going to need some straight pins and then some sewing needles, a fabric marker, and then some scissors. We're going to start with sewing the teeth first. So basically our teeth is just a yellow rectangle right now. I'm going to be hand stitching the actual outline of the teeth, and to help me do this, I'm going to use my fabric marker. So the marker is just to help me so I make sure that I'm doing my stitches straight. I'm going to draw a line across the length of it, and then I'm just going to draw lines going vertical. And you can see I've already done that here. So then I'm going to grab my embroidery floss. And if you look at your floss, if you cut a piece, make sure you don't cut it too long. It should be about 12-15 inches. You can see it's made up of individual strands. So you're just going to use, every time you sew, you only need 2 strands. I'm going to pull one strand out. I'm going to hold it with one hand, and then the other hand, I'm just going to pull away the other strands. So once I have 2, I can go ahead and put it on my needle. So we're going to next stitch our teeth, and I'm going to show you how to do that. For this part, I'm going to use a back stitch. Now for this part, it's especially important, especially if you're doing craft felt, is you never stitch right on the edge, otherwise it might rip. And also for my thread here on my needle, I only tie a knot at the very end. I'm not doing it at the tail end of the thread. So I'm going to start from the wrong side coming up, because I want to make sure that my knot's going to be hidden on the back. And you can see I'm starting a little ways in, and then I'm going to go back to the start. And again, I'm not doing it right on the edge there. Don't pull it too quickly or you may get a knot. Just nice and smooth. And then I'm going to start a little bit in front of that. Careful not to stick yourself. And I'm going to go a little bit into that first stitch that I did. And I'm just going to follow my line all the way down until I get to the end, and then you can go ahead and do the ones that are going vertical. So again, going in front of that, and then going a little bit into my stitch that's behind it. Next, you're going to position the mouth where you want it to be on the skull. You're going to use a straight pin to pin it into place, and then you're going to use the same back stitch, and you're going to go around the whole perimeter of the mouth. So you're sewing the mouth section onto the skull. Now remember, you don't want to do it too close to the edge. That's a little bit if the yellow shows on the outside of the line. And you also want to make sure that you start it so your knot ends up on the wrong side of the skull. Next, we're going to do the eyes. You want to place your eyes where you want to and go ahead and put a straight pin in them. This time we're going to do a blanket stitch around the perimeter, which you can see I've already done here. And I just want to point out, don't be afraid to do a contrasting color. Definitely don't feel like you need to match, because it'll look more fun if you don't match. All right, so for this one, I'm actually going to start on the back of the flower, and it doesn't matter where you start, I'm just starting at the top. Just make sure you don't go too close to the edge. We're going to hide the knot underneath. Now this time I'm kind of going in the same spot, and I'm going to come up. I'm just grabbing a little bit of the white skull right above it and then come up on the flower side, but you see I'm not coming up right directly on my stitch, I'm coming up a little ways away from that. But before you pull it all the way through, here's my extra thread right here. Before I pull this through, I'm just going to put my needle through that loop, and it's going to start a stitch like that. Now the next time I do it though, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm grabbing a little bit of the skull, coming up on the flower, but I'm coming up just a little ways away from my last stitch. Before I pull all the way through, I'm going to go through it. And you'll see the stitch now goes right across the top. Definitely don't pull it too tight. You want to pull it tight, but not too tight that you're ripping anything. All right, grab a little bit of the skull, come up on the side of the flower a little ways away from my last stitch, and go through it. And when you go through it, you want to make sure that your loop is not twisted or anything. So you always double check that. Grab a little bit of the skull, a little bit of the flower, and then go through it again. So I'm going to do this all the way around both eyes. Next, we're going to do the nose. So for this one, I'm going to do a running stitch. So I'm going to come up from underneath so the knot is hidden. I'm going through both the skull fabric and the nose fabric. There's my needle right there. Again, not too close to the edge, coming straight up. And then you're going to go straight down, just a little ways away from where your original position was. And then a little ways away from that, I'm going to come up again, pull it all the way through, and then go down just a little ways away from that. So I'm always moving forward. The space between the stitches are about 1/8 of an inch. I would say each stitch is about between 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in length. And I'm just going to go around the whole perimeter of the nose. And also what I like to do is after I stitch around the perimeter, let me just find my thread here, there it is. So I go around the whole nose. I might actually then go up in the middle of the nose as well. But it's really up to you. That's what I like about this project. You can really do whatever kind of stitch that you would like to do. The last piece we need to stitch on is going to be the mustache. So for this one, I do a similar stitch to this. So that's the running stitch, and I just go around the perimeter of the stache. With our pieces all sewn on, we can now start decorating our sugar skull with decorative stitches. So I'm going to start with the chain stitch. Now this is going to be the last stitch that I'm going to demonstrate. And I'm going to do it right here. So I went ahead and used my fabric marker to mark where I need to stitch. So I'm just using this as a visual guideline so I make sure that I do everything straight. All right, so we're going to do the chain stitch. I have my embroidery floss and needle. I'm coming up from underneath so that my knot is going to be hidden on the back side of this. And you can see I'm starting right on the end there. I'm going to pull it all the way through. All right, now I'm going to go back down into the fabric right next to where my stitch is. I'm not going in the same hole, but pretty close to it. Then I'm going to bring my needle up a little ways away from where my two stitches are. I'm going to bring my floss forward so that I have floss going on either side of where the thread is coming out, because as I pull it, you'll see what happened is, remember, pull slowly, it creates a loop, and then where we did our stitch here, it's preventing it from going all the way. So that's the first part. Let's do this again. So right where my thread is now coming out of the fabric, don't pull it too tight. You're going to go back down right next to it. Bring your needle up a little ways away from that. Make it a little smaller. Right there. You're going to make sure that you have thread on either side of the needle. So I slowly pull it, and you'll see we have the next loop. So there we go. Pull a little bit tighter, but not too tight. So now I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to do this for the whole length of wherever I want to stitch a chain stitch. I'm going to go down right next to where my thread's coming up. And move this thread out of the way so you can see. Bring my needle up a little ways away. Make sure I have thread going on both sides of the needle here as I pull it through. So it's like it's coming through the loop. And there's another one. So I'm just going to continue doing that, and that's how you do a chain stitch. Here you can see my sugar skull with more decorative stitches, and I'm just using the same stitches we did before. You can see here and these pieces right here. I'm doing the back stitch, I have the running stitch, I have the chain stitch again, and then these are just one single stitches. So you can really just have fun with it and decorate it how you want. After you're kind of satisfied with it, now comes the fun part where you can use little decals you picked up from the craft store. And for these, I would just use fabric glue to glue them on. Here you can see an example of my completed sugar skull. So now it's ready for me to use in my next project, but the fun part is you can make it as complex or as simple as you want. New tutorials are released weekly, so please subscribe to be notified of the next release. Make sure to check out our other videos and visit ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 200 sewing video tutorials, including our exclusive premium content. Our premium membership is only $5 a month for unlimited access and only available at ProfessorPincushion.com. Also, don't forget to download our mobile app for videos on the go. Thanks for watching.